Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd. This astrology report is for the week of April 1st, and we have made it into a new calendar month. It feels so good to have these transition moments, and I was out of the studio last week and was tending to some family and doing what I needed to be doing, and I missed, a pretty big week. I missed the second round of the eclipses, and also we had a pretty big planetary change last week. That is Neptune moved into Aries, and that is a couple of pretty big deals there. The ending of the eclipses, that probably you have actually already begun to feel the subsiding of some of that fast moving portal eclipse energy. Maybe it felt like the roller coaster finally started to slow down a little bit and change pace a little bit. There have been some major transformations that have taken place over the last month, and the eclipses really stick with us for the 6 months that we move in. It builds up an energy, then we hit these climax points, and we see big changes happen quickly. When we have the eclipses, it's because the nodal axis points are in play, and those are the cosmic course correctors. So we could have been through a lot over the past month, seeing where our life needed to go and moving in different directions, maybe feeling like the universe somewhat forcing us there in ways, messages all over the place because of the two personal planets, Venus and Mercury, have been in retrograde during the eclipse time. That's very, very important because when we have planets in retrograde, they are delivering messages from the deep, messages from the gods. And that is information that has come to us. It's added to the intensity of the eclipse portal. There's been a lot of things happening. So I am happy to be back here in the cosmic community with you all to just keep diving in and floating in all of this, because that's what it feels like. We are marinating right now in a lot of new energy. Neptune has not been in Aries for, this is over 100-year cycle. So we haven't seen this. I think it's like 160-year cycle. And so we've never seen this before. It's like the new sign of the times. And Aries is such a powerful new beginning point anyways, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac and is the initiator. And so there has been a feeling of initiation, like we've moved in to a new era, a different timeline almost, with this new fresh energy coming in. Aries is such a bold, confident initiator, leader, wanting to start things and focus the energies in new areas and take action. And the planetary ruler of Aries is Mars, and Mars is the aggressor. Mars is the fighter. Mars is the warrior of the zodiac. So we get filled with, and larger society gets filled, the people, the energy, we can feel it as it comes in. It's a big energy, as the energy of Mars wants to head in one direction, take action, and complete things. And so this is the new Neptune. Neptune is the planet of hopes and dreams and desires, illusions, delusions, even drugs, alcohol, addiction tied up in Neptune, the oceans, and water and emotions, very much represented by Neptune. And so this bubble has kind of been bursted now that it's moved into a new sign out of Pisces, which is the sign that it rules, and also the last sign of the zodiac. So really come to a completion point. The bubble has been bursted, the eclipses are over, and we have this newfound Aries energy. It's instinctual, and it's confident, and it's bold, and the energy is going to absolutely start to, I feel, build a little bit. And we do have this week, this astrology report is, definitely an interesting one, as they all are. It's got a lot of fateful energy in the first week of April. And we also have the planet Mercury stationing direct and coming out of the retrograde cycle, and Venus soon to follow. There is a big aspect this week called a minor grand trine, and that's perfected, meaning that they are exactly in those perfect points on April 4th, but really it's the energy we're feeling all week. Also is this minor grand trine between Mars in Cancer, Uranus in Taurus, and Saturn in Pisces. And so I'm going to try and break all of this down for us, but definitely I wanted to go back and just kind of, clean up after the eclipses. And we still have a bit of this Pisces party going on. So this Pisces energy is still not to be undermined at all. We have fresh Aries energy and more to come, as the two planets in retrograde are going to move into Aries as they leave Pisces also. So we've had planets retrograde since December. And so I feel as though the energy is starting to build because we've had Mars out of retrograde for a couple months. Then we had these other two personal planets, Venus, Mercury, go retrograde. And now we see them starting to finish that cycle and move on. And we have Neptune in Aries. We have, things moving on here. So that to me is why I'm saying that the energy builds from here, but the Pisces energy is still not to be undermined. Like, there are endings still taking place. There is still a big amount of things to be let go, and patterns and habits to leave behind, and more healing to do, for sure, with with all of the action in April. We see Saturn move into the final degrees of Pisces, and this is going to bring about a lot of karmic healing. There's going to be healing of the past, because Pisces absolutely represents the past, letting things go and leaving things behind. Saturn already deals with the past. And so, it's been feeling for the last few months like it's been one step forward, two steps back, two to the side, one forward, one back. And so it's going to start building. The energy is definitely turning around. And this week could very well be that week that it starts to turn around. On April 1st, we start the week with our Venus retrograde meeting up with the North Node. And I mentioned those eclipse points being when we come into the interaction with the nodes, and it's very fateful. And we can be put on our correct course. We can be absolutely realigned and put in a new direction. This is, though, with the Venus in retrograde. And so this is actually the second of three conjunctions that they are making during this retrograde. And so this cycle, very, very fateful, very destined, for relationships and for our heart, as Venus represents relationships, love, money, trust, value systems, all those things, going through an edit, review, readjustment phase, and coming into 3 conjunctions with the North Node during that time. So very much leaning in to destiny here and trusting what we are receiving during this Venus retrograde cycle. And then on April 3rd, the moon, and this happens a couple of times a month, but the moon comes into a T-square with those same nodes of fate, nodes of destiny, making another very fateful day. And that is the same day that Mercury, in this retrograde cycle, in the last degrees of Pisces, is going to conjunct with that North Node also. So Venus making that conjunction earlier this week, we learn more about the direction to go and what's happening in this retrograde cycle with Venus. And then again, Mercury rules the mind, the thoughts, the communication, those messages from the gods. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, of all of them. And so Mercury brings so much to us during retrograde. And here making that conjunction with the North Node makes it such fateful information, such fateful communications. I mean, there could be some true information learned this week and experiences that take place that really help us start to build some clarity on what these retrogrades have been about, what these eclipses, how we've transformed through those and the directions that we're heading from here on out, because Pisces is quite the mysterious energy. We've had this big Pisces stellium and everything hanging out there, causing a ton of kind of delusion and muddying things, and just kind of everything's just kind of unclear, very mysterious and mystical. And that is one of the beautiful things about Pisces. Pisces loves the mystical nature of things, fantasy, sci-fi, everything that is kind of otherworldly and belongs outside of our little reality. That's what Pisces loves. And so during this time, we've been under the influence of that, right? And it's been fun. Okay. But, at some point we want to come out of the long, strange trip, and have some clarity. And so I think that this is going to be one of those points here this week with that. And Mercury is going to be stationing direct on April 7th. So Mercury is going to be slowing down and is already in that slowing time, and then becomes extremely potent right around the times when they station direct and retrograde. The planets are just felt the most. And that leads us to probably the biggest day of the first week of April, and that's the 4th. And I'm just noticing it's 4/4. It's the day 4/4, and I'm actually going to talk about a 44-year cycle. So that seems very fateful and destined and beautiful. And this 44-year cycle that I'm going to speak of is the Saturn-Uranus cycle, and that's because Saturn and Uranus are going to come into a sextile this week, and that's 2 signs apart from each other, 60 degrees, and it's a very flowy, beneficial, smooth aspect. A sextile is very cooperative, and you can expect cooperation between the planets and their energies to meld really well, and for them to have a good time in the sextile. And so this is actually coming into perfection this week, but because of Saturn and Uranus's retrograde cycles later this year, we are going to be experiencing this certain sextile for basically the rest of the year. And it's going to, get perfected, and then it's going to kind of fade, and then it's going to perfect again. And this is really important because Saturn and Uranus are two kind of conflicting energies, because Saturn represents the old and Uranus represents the new. They have a 44-year cycle, so when they conjunct, it takes 44 years for them to reach each other again. And we are in the closing phase of this. This is the closing sextile of that 44-year cycle. And we were actually talking a lot back in 2021 here in the Cosmic Community Astrology about the Saturn-Uranus square. And you probably remember that. And that was a long-term square also, and these planets move slow, so when they come into aspect with each other, it takes time for these stories to play out. And so 2021, you can go back and kind of see where things were at that time, and you can see maybe the old versus the new was coming up, the past versus the future. There was some cooperation there, but a square is going to be a tougher aspect, kind of causing some action to be taken. And so there was this square in 2021, and now we've reached the sextile, and it's kind of a recovery phase, if you can think of it that way. All of the struggles that were taking place with the Saturn-Uranus square, just like the larger, it seemed like it was like larger society versus the people. And Saturn is absolutely the system, like the man is absolutely Saturn, and Uranus is the planet, of the people. It's the planet of awakening and of revolution and revelation. And looking back on a lot of that time during the square, there was like some really unstable things going on. It felt very shaky. And so we're in the recovery phase now, and this is being perfected into this minor grand trine this week, with Mars also joining the party. So Uranus, a very electric energy, Mars, fast moving, wanting to take action and like just pull the trigger. It's very much a Mars energy. Saturn is a lot slower. Saturn wants to slow things down and stop and think about it and ask a lot of questions and create some good rules around it. Uranus wants to blow all that up and say that has nothing to do with progress. And so if we are to progress and awaken, we need to throw all that out. And Mars is like just here for the party. Like, yeah, let's make sure that each person is getting each energy person. I'm putting the planets as people here, but I'm kind of creating a metaphor around maybe some personality, to help you really feel it. And Mars comes in and is like, yeah, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. Let's fight for that. Let's get it. And Mars is still in Cancer, so kind of a little more reserved, but very much about the home and the homeland and security and safety. And so Mars is here to help create security and safety, and wants to make sure that these energies are getting what they need. They're in a beautiful aspect. This minor grand trine is at 24 degrees of Cancer, Taurus, Pisces. So, you can look in your birth chart and see what is it, 24 degrees? I mean, really, 24 degrees of any sign is going to be affected by this minor grand trine, and it's a skill building type of energy, and it's absolutely cooperative, and it almost feels like because Mars is involved, there's no stopping it. I mean, it's very electric, and it's already a process in place with Saturn-Uranus and their last 44 years trying to get through this cycle. So stay in it, and be really aware of the actions that are taking place and the electric energy and the old versus the new, and see where, all these things want to play in your life. And then April 5th is Saturday. It's all just moon aspects, but I was just pointing it out because it's like a really busy lunar day. So Saturday, April 5th could be just a very busy day. There could just be a lot of different feelings thrown out there. There could be a lot of different parts to the day, when you've had a long day and you're like, phase 25 complete. Yeah, that could feel a little bit like April 5th. And then Mercury stationing direct on the 7th. And that same day, though, we have Venus making a conjunction with Saturn. She is retrograde, and then we have her making that same sextile with Uranus in that conjunction. So Venus retrograde and Saturn. We just talked about Saturn, and Venus has already gone through a lot. She's really in a pretty good place in Pisces. It's a comfortable place for her. So, she is definitely ready, though, for Saturn is going to be kind of like dad here, and she's going to get some dad hugs, and she's going to get some dad advice. And so it could be a great day just to reach out to like dad people in your life and that type of energy. And also for, the Uranus sextile, it's going to be just an awakening. It's going to be really nice. It could be a surprise, and because Venus represents money, this could have something to do with money too. You could be getting some good advice about, money and how to spend your money or how to make money, or there could even be some surprise money that just randomly shows up on April 7th because Uranus sometimes does that too. So, that's the report for the week. I really, really appreciate you being here, and I hope that things are going well for you, and I plan to be back here in the cosmic community next week, and I just wish you the very best. Take care. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.